Welcome everyone, this is Jacob with Junior Pastor Journeys, and in today's video I will be doing my first ever message slash sermon for this YouTube channel. One of the things that I really wanted to do with this YouTube channel is I wanted to have a digital way to store a lot of my messages, and to also just be able to have you guys hear my messages. You can always in the comments post concerns and critiques and also compliments about it, things I can work on. And yeah, so if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share. And with that, the title of my message today is The Doctrine of Heaven and Exploration. So let us begin. I'll start off with a quote from St. Augustine in his exposition of the book of Psalms, where he says, quote, "Eyes have not seen, nor ears heard, nor have entered into the heart of man the things of which God has prepared for those who love him." So I'll start off with a question. What comes to mind when you hear the word heaven? Most commonly, it's the place we go when we die. People typically imagine the pearly white gates, the clouds in the sky, where the bearded man in the sky dwells. Some people think that it's kind of boring just because we'll be singing hymns to God all day. Some people think that everyone will kind of experience the same thing, right? Because, if we're all just in the clouds all day, then we're just kind of all doing the same thing. And for the most part, everyone knows that it's the opposite of hell. From the movies we watch to the books we read, heaven is described everywhere. But have you ever stopped to think, are these depictions actually accurate? Like most depictions, our cultural perception of heaven differs from the truth, because the biblical heaven is so much more complex than our culture deems it to be. So that's kind of the first purpose of this message, is to kind of explain away these false representations of heaven. My job here is to try to grant a faithful image of the true glory where God dwells with his redeemed people. The second purpose of this message is to encourage us when the fog and fatigue of this world comes amongst us, because I truly believe that an accurate understanding of heaven is incredibly helpful and almost necessary to follow Jesus in this life. I think C.S. Lewis put it well in Mere Christianity when he says, "If you read history, you will find that the Christians who did the most for the present world were those who thought the most of the next. It is since Christians have largely ceased to think of the other world that they have become so ineffective in this. Aim at heaven, and you will get earth thrown in. Aim at earth, and you will get neither." A good metaphor to really demonstrate this is the metaphor of Florence Chadwick. So Florence Chadwick was a swimmer, and in 1952, she tried to swim from the Catalina Islands to the coast of California. This swim took around 15 minutes, and she swam for 20.1 miles or 32.2 kilometers. At the final hour, hour 15, a very thick fog settled in, and as a result, this caused Florence Chadwick to become discouraged, and as a result, she ultimately gave up. While on the boat ride back, she realized that if she had just swam just another mile, she would have made it to the coast. Encouraged by this, 2 months later, Florence tried again, and this time she actually made it. In a post-swim interview, she was asked how exactly she was able to make it this time, and she said to the interviewer that in the first time, her first swim, she could only see the fog that was in front of her. But this time, however, she kept a mental image of the shore in her mind until she made it. And this, I believe, is how heaven should function in the mind of a believer. That when we can focus on the reminder where we're headed, when we can fix our eyes not on this life but the next one, that we can better be able to get through the fog and fatigue of this life. That we can anticipate the joy and glory that is ahead of us for all those faithful in Christ Jesus. But before I move on to my first point, I just want to thank Dr. Gavin Ortland from Truth Unites, specifically his video on 6 things that Christians miss about heaven. That video was the inspiration for this sermon, because I felt like there were so many things I learned about heaven in that message, in that video that he made, that I wanted to share with my church and with you guys. So I just thank again Dr. Gavin Ortland if you're watching this. I'm a really big fan. And with that, let's move on to point number 1. This might confuse some of you guys, wait, what? Heaven is temporary? but I'll explain that right now. So, first, I have a question. What are your thoughts on the following description of heaven? When we die, our souls leave our bodies and unite with God forever. How often do you hear this depiction? You may have even heard it in the church, right? And although there is truth to this statement, I would say for the most part, it's actually incomplete. Rather than heaven being just one place forever, there's actually a second part to it. And I'm going to be calling this a two-state model for a faithful believer after death. Most of us, including me, only believed in this first stage that once we die, we will go to heaven and be with God forever. In this section, I'll show that stage 1 will actually pass away and will lead to stage 2. On the screen right now, I will put a diagram to kind of better show this two-stage model overall. Yeah, so hopefully you'll be able to better visualize it. This two-stage model is described in the New Testament, and this second stage will go on forever. So these stages can be split into the intermediate stage, or what I will be referring to as paradise, and the final stage, which I will call the new heaven and new earth. So I'll be using these terms for 1 and 2, and we will start with paradise. So first point is in the intermediate stage, or paradise. When we die on this planet, our souls will indeed immediately be lifted up to paradise, and we will reunite with Christ. We believe that upon physical death, the believer's soul immediately enters into the presence of God in paradise. Paul says in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 8, that he would rather be absent from the body and present with the Lord. Paul says in Philippians chapter 1, verse 23, that I am torn between the two. I desire to depart with Christ, which is far better. Not much is really stated in the Bible about this intermediate state, or paradise, but here's what we do know. 1 is that believers will enjoy fellowship with God and the other saints. 2, we are freed from sin and suffering that is on this earth. 3, we will be reunited with many of our loved ones. And 4, the saints in heaven are actually going to be aware of what's happening on earth. Luke chapter 15, verses 7 to 10 says that there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not. And this kind of shows that the saints in heaven are aware of what's happening on earth. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 describes a great cloud of witnesses witnessing our struggles and our journey. And I really do think that this idea that the saints are aware of what's going on earth is very comforting, because it shows that our loved ones who have passed away, who have ceased, are still watching over us and are cheering us on as we go on our journeys and we run the race with Christ. But the main thing about this state, about paradise, is that it is temporary, and it is before the resurrection of the body and the establishment of the new heaven and new earth. So now, I hope that all that made sense. So the first stage is paradise, but now the second stage I'll be describing is the final state, or the new heaven and new earth. So in between the first stage and the second stage, Christ will come back to earth. So this is most commonly called the second coming. And when Jesus returns to earth, he will do a couple of things. 1, all believers in heaven will be raised again from the dead, and so they'll be taken from paradise and be raised back to life on earth in new and glorified bodies. We will touch on this on my next point. Next, everyone will be judged. So this means that people who were in hell or who were in Hades will be raised again, and people from paradise will be raised again, and everyone will be judged. Then God will establish what is called the new heaven and new earth. This is where heaven and earth will reunite and meet, and there will no longer be a separation between the two. Or a good friend referred to this as the greatest crossover ever. This is where believers will dwell and be in communion with God forever. Just like the intermediate state, or paradise, we will be free from the grips of sin and suffering. We will be in fellowship with God and the other saints. It is here where believers will actually spend all of eternity with God. But what exactly occurs on this new heaven and new earth that is different from paradise? The rest of this message will unpack some of that. Overall, though, in my conclusion for this section, first, the intermediate state is spiritual and is where we go when we die. The main thing is that it is temporary. 2, the The final state is both spiritual and physical and encompasses all of eternity. And 3, the confusion in this distinction often creates confusion on the doctrine of heaven. Now, let's go on to the second point. So, from this point on, I will mainly be discussing the final state as the new heaven and new earth, and I will make a distinction to paradise when needed. As discussed earlier, the stereotypical depiction of heaven is that we will kind of be souls floating around in heaven in the clouds forever. And this might be kind of true for the intermediate state, we're not really sure. In the final state, we will be both spiritual and physical. In the Apostles' Creed, we celebrate the resurrection of the body. So this means that when we are resurrected, we will have glorified bodies, just like Jesus' resurrected body post-resurrection. This means that Christ's resurreted body, is the prototype to which we will have. And some physical characteristics that we'll have is that we'll have the ability to eat and drink. For example, in Luke 24:40-42, this is that Jesus asked the disciples, "Do you have anything here to eat?" And they gave him a piece of broiled fish. We will have hair, bones, skin, fingernails. Luke 24:36-39 describes Jesus saying, "For a spirit does not have flesh and blood, for a spirit does not have flesh and blood, are you see that I have now?" We will never get sick or feel exhausted or be tired. Think about Narnia, when they run as fast as possible, but they don't get tired. In the story of Doubting Thomas, Thomas is able to put his fingers into the side of Jesus and into the holes of Jesus' hands. And for most humans, having a hole in your hand or a hole in your side would mean death, right? But because Jesus has a glorified body, injuries to his body don't affect him. Overall, this means that we will retain certain physical characteristics, like I said earlier, like hair, being able to eat, but we will lose or gain certain physical characteristics, such as the ability to get sick or be injured. So we will have physical characteristics, but what about everything else in the world? Will we just be physical bodies floating around in the clouds? Well, this simply isn't just the case, because Jesus didn't just come to redeem his people, he came to redeem something else. Jesus came to redeem all of creation. Did you know that when Adam fell in the garden, when Adam and Eve took of the fruit and ate, not only did humanity fall, all of creation fell with Adam. So when Adam ate of the fruit, humanity fell into sin, but also all of creation fell into disarray and disorder because of Adam's sin. So this is why we have diseases and natural disasters and evil in this world. All of creation also needs a redeemer. Paul talks about in Romans chapter 8, verse 20-21, that creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom and glory of the children of God. Jesus says in Revelation 21:5, "I am making everything new." So Jesus came to redeem both humanity and all of creation. This means that the new heaven and new earth will be physical. There will be a place for us to inhabit. There will be physical ground for us to step on. Our hands will feel things. We can taste things. We can smell things. We will be able to touch things. We'll be able to hear things. For Christ's redemption is as wide as creation. As a result, we will worship God not only in spirit, but also physically, as we call the new heaven and new earth our final home. St. Anselm, in his Proslogon 25, talks about, quote, There is whatever ye love, whatever ye desires, if swiftness or endurance or freedom of body, which naught can withstand. To like thee, they shall be as angels of God. If it is melody, there the choirs of the angels sing forever. Before God, if it is any not impure, but pure pleasure, thou shalt make them drink of the river of thy pleasure, O God. So to conclude this point, 1, our resurrected bodies will be like Christ's resurrected bodies. 2, this means that we will have physical characteristics such as hair, but we will gain or lose other physical characteristics such as the ability to get injured or sick. And 3rd, all of creation will be redeemed, giving us a physical reality to which we will interact with on the new heaven and new earth. Now, let's go on to the next point. All right, for our 3rd point, I will be referring to the story of the penitent thief in Luke chapter 23, verses 39 to 43. So as Jesus was dying on the cross, there were two criminals on his left and on his right. The first criminal mocked Jesus, saying, "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal, who realized who Jesus was, said, "Don't you fear God," he said, "since you are under the same sentence? We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong." The man, the penitent thief, proclaimed Christ's lordship, confessed his sins, and seeked repentance and reconciliation with Jesus. Then the man asked Jesus, "Jesus, remember me when you're in your kingdom." The thief, he didn't even ask Jesus, like, "Oh, can I go to heaven?" He just asked Jesus to remember him there, the humility that this thief showed. But Christ responded with something that truly shocked the thief to his core. Because Jesus answered him, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." I have a question for you guys. In this moment, what did Jesus offer the thief? What was the gift that the thief received? If you said that Jesus offered this thief paradise, you would be incorrect. Or, at least, that isn't the full story. Let's read the verse again. Jesus says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." So, the gift that Jesus offers the thief is not paradise, but rather that the thief will be with Jesus forever. Paradise isn't the gift, but rather where the gift will take place. It isn't the main focus. The main gift is that you will be with Jesus forever. This is quite possibly the biggest misconception that both Christians and non-Christians hold. For we aren't Christian just because we get to go to heaven. We don't have faith just to go to heaven. We don't follow and walk with Jesus just to go to heaven. We follow Jesus because being in relationship with Jesus is the greatest gift that we can ever imagine. Christianity only offers you one thing. Christianity doesn't offer you happiness. Christianity doesn't offer you money. Christianity doesn't offer you all the worldly pleasures you want. The only thing that Christianity offers you is to be with God for all of eternity. The question is that enough? Our culture and even the modern church today have only focused on the location of which the gift will take place, or paradise. But true biblical Christianity has consistently shown that the true gift is to be with Jesus for the rest of eternity. But why is being with Jesus worth it? Hopefully, our next section will help with that. To conclude this section, though, first, Jesus doesn't offer the penitent thief paradise, but rather to be with Christ forever. Two, many believe Christianity is only about achieving paradise. Three, the only thing Christianity offers you is God. The question is that enough? Now let's move on to our fourth point. So our fourth point that I'll be covering here is that heaven provides paradoxical joy and satisfaction. So for this section of my message, instead of just kind of talking to you, we will be doing a thought experiment. I hope that this thought experiment can truly convey the joy of heaven. So for all my viewers listening, please try to find a way where you can focus. You can choose to close your eyes, but if it's like nighttime or early in the morning, that can make you tired. So maybe you can just stare somewhere. The point is that you need to be able to create a mental image in your mind. Now, try to imagine the happiest and most joyful moment of your life. If you can't think of one, just think of the first one that comes to mind. What's happening in this moment? Who's included in this moment? Where are you? What emotions are you feeling? Can you smell anything? Can you hear anything? Can you taste anything? What are you seeing with your eyes? Are you able to touch stuff and feel things? It almost seems like time has no end. That in this moment, there's not a single worry, stress, or anxious thought that is remotely in your mind. For in this moment, you are fully satisfied, and nothing can take that joy away from you. Okay, you can refocus or open your eyes. Yeah, thank you for doing this thought experiment. I hope that this made your day just a little bit better. But so I think you could see that in that moment, you were completely satisfied, and there's nothing that could take you away. But now imagine this. For in that moment, you're completely satisfied, and yet there's more. For this is the paradox of heaven, that our experience of heaven is perfect, but ever increasing. So you can kind of see how that's kind of a paradox, right? An analogy I like to use is that imagine you're in a really big mansion and every day you find a new room that you didn't know about the day prior. And the cycle just keeps going and going. So, kind of pointing back to heaven, the first moment that you're in heaven, you won't be lacking in anything. It won't feel like that. It won't feel like you're incomplete. But the billionth moment in heaven will somehow have a richness and quality that has somehow expanded. But it won't be overwhelming or stress you out. How can something be completely perfect, absolutely infinite, and somehow there's more to the story? I think a good illustration of this is in Revelation 21:4, when it says that he will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, mourning, or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. But how is this seemingly unobtainable joy even possible? Quite simply, it comes from who and what God is. For God's nature is infinite perfection and therefore never ending, just like the mansion analogy I just used a couple seconds ago. This means that even when we have come to reveal one aspect of God, we come to find that we've barely even touched the surface of who God is. People who have studied God for their entire lives will honestly tell you that their studies haven't even touched the outer core of God's divine essence. This never-ending unveiling of God's character can fulfill all of man's desires for the rest of eternity. Think of heaven as a never-ending journey into the being of God. For God's perfection is the deepest longings of the human heart. God is the source of all creaturely happiness. The richness of God is so enthralling, so captivating, so magical that it has the power to occupy your heart for the rest of eternity into an overflowing fullness of joy that can't be contained. I hope this thought experiment has made your morning/day just a little bit better. This is a joy this joy is something that we hope can never be taken away from us. But if the new heaven and new earth, is there a possibility that the new heaven and new earth can end up like the Garden of Eden? What if someone makes a mistake that dooms all of humanity and creation to fall again? Could Satan somehow infiltrate the new heaven and new earth to tempt one of us? This could cause, for some of us, major anxiety. Hopefully this last section can ease this worry and concern. To conclude this section though, first, the joy of heaven is a paradox of perfect but ever increasing. 2, God's character and essence are the source of this joy. And 3, as a result, we can be occupied in unveiling God, who God is, for the rest of eternity. Now let's move on to our last point. So the last point that I will be covering in this video is that heaven is irreversible and will never fall again. Specifically, I mean that we will not have to worry about if there's going to be a second fall, because we will be made unable to sin. We don't have to worry about screwing the entire world over again. The new heaven and new earth, it will be different from the Garden of Eden and will be permanent. Because we will be confirmed in our obedience to God, just like how the holy angels were confirmed once they decided not to follow Satan. St. Augustine in City of God, in a section on the 4 states of humanity, I think summarized it well. So he says, before the fall, we were able to sin and able not to sin. After the fall, we were not able not to sin. After the work of Christ has begun in us, we are able not to sin. And after the work of Christ is completed in us, we will be unable to sin. Isn't this such great news? We always know that there will be no suffering in heaven, but won't it be great to know that we will never sin again? We will never worry about betraying Christ again. We never have to worry about displeasing Christ ever again. And we will never have to be afraid that this perfect happiness will be taken away from us ever again. But how is this unableness to sin even possible? How will we be able to be obedient to God forever on the new heaven and new earth? Quite simply, this is due to our participation in God's divine nature, or specifically in his all-knowingness. 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 4 describes how we will become partakers of the divine nature. That our will be conformed to God's will, meaning that we will want everything that God wants. We will have kind of a shared all-knowingness, a shared omnipotence. I know this section was kind of short, but in conclusion, 1, we will be confirmed in our obedience to God, meaning that we can never sin. 2, this means that the new heaven and new earth is incapable of falling ever again. And 3, we will never have to worry about betraying Christ again, for we will want what he wants, and we will what he wills. There's so much more in this message that I could cover, but it would take a lot of time, so this video has kind of been a summary of it. I hope this message has encouraged you guys in any way it can. And I'll end with a final quote from the last book of the Chronicle of Narnia series by, of course, C.S. Lewis again. He says, quote, "And as he spoke, he no longer looked to them like a lion, but the things that began to happen after that were so great and beautiful that I cannot write them. For us, this is the end of all stories, and we can most truly say that we all lived happily ever after. But for them, it was only the beginning of the real story. All their life in this world and all their adventures, Narnia has only been the cover and the title page. Now, at least, they were beginning at chapter 1 of the great story that no one on earth has ever read, which goes on forever, in which every story is better than the one before." If you're not Christian or this is your first time learning about this topic, I hope that it has inspired you to kind of think deeper about this topic, because overall the idea of heaven just is so cool, right? And if you are Christian, I hope that this message can encourage you with endurance to be able to get through the fog and fatigue of life. Just like Florence Chadwick, that you can be able to have a mental image of heaven, where we are going, and with Jesus at the center, to be able to get through the fog of life. And I truly believe that what we need in this life isn't freedom from suffering, but rather hope. And that's ultimately what the gospel gives us. Now, thank you everyone for watching this video again. I hope that, I hope that it has encouraged you guys to be able to get through the fog and fatigue of life. And with that, remember to always rejoice.